again, and thank you for returning to the Dragon's Lair to hear another daily reading from Convergence, Book 1 of the Dragon Within Saga. We're going to dive right in and continue on in Chapter 4, where Antelos, the Grand Wizard, has just turned into the new class of initiates that he's going to address. So here we go. The initiates were all wearing their dark maroon robes. Apart from the color, they were entirely plain and nondescript. Initiates were all given the same items, 3 from the university and 1 from yet an undetermined source. And these 4 items were all they had in common on the first day. As Antelos surveyed the class, he took mental notes of where each initiate chose to place their items. Some of them had their quills, inkwells, and books neatly arranged on their desktop. Others were placed without organization. Some even had not placed them on their desktops at all, probably waiting for instruction before acting. Ending his assessment, he walked slowly behind his desk, located at the front of the room of the course, placed his book next to his feathered quill, and walked again to stand in front of his students, where he waited. It seemed that every year, no matter how closely the incoming class of initiates was mentored by an assigned ascendant, on the first day there was always one student who was late. This morning was no different. As the minutes dragged on in silence, uncomfortably for those seated in the chairs closest to him, Antelos glanced at his hourglass and smiled. Just before the sands ran their course, exiting through the opening and into the past, a young girl, initiate, stumbled through the open door, dropping her quill, book, and inkwell. The class laughed when she ended up on the floor with her belongings. Antelos, seeing her embarrassment, walked over to her, bent down, and gathered her scattered possessions. Seeing she was unable to move, too mortified to access her physical mobility, he leaned close to her ear as he helped her up. "Good morning, Anaria. Do not worry about them. My very first class in this very same room began exactly as yours did, except I spilled my ink all over my robes. All of my friends called me Spots for the rest of the year," he said with a broad smile. "Now take your seat so we can begin." His amused grin lingered on her as she walked to the back of the class and sat herself in the last remaining seat. He was fond of her and had been since he first consulted her parents regarding her talent. She shared his thirst for knowledge, but unlike him, she spent most of her time writing instead of reading. Returning to the head of the classroom again, he turned and prepared to begin their formal education into the grand exposure of wizardry. "Good morning," Antelos began his address. Not waiting for an answer, he continued, "Where is it you suppose you are?" Allowing the students a perplexed moment to look around at their new classmates, after which he continued, "Well, do not be shy. There really is no wrong answer, and most times the most obvious answer is the best one." A timid voice from the back of the class answered, "We are at the university?" "True enough, Anaria. Indeed you are," he said with excitement lacing his words. "But now, how do you know that?" He directed his question to the timid voice who initially answered him. "What do you mean?" the young girl said after a pause to look around her class, now with all eyes directed toward her. Through an amused chuckle, the High Wizard spoke again. "My meaning was contained within the question, my young initiate. How do you know where you are?" Again, the young girl looked around, hoping to get some help from her classmates, who were no better off finding an answer to his question than she was. Then, just as Antelos was about to ask his question in another way, a different, yet just as timid voice spoke up, breaking the awkward silence. "Are you asking how we know we are in the university, or how we know we're sitting at a desk?" "Exactly. Correct you are. How do we know either? And does knowledge of one mean the knowledge of another?" Seeing he had confused his students even more, and achieved his exact intent, he leaned against his desk and continued in the speech he had delivered for ages upon ages. "My young initiates, so many times we do not realize the depth of what we know because we do not take time to consider all that we know. Think of all you did to make your way here. Think of the land you traveled over, some of you at great lengths. Think of all the things you saw, smelled, felt, heard, and tasted. Close your eyes and revisit your journey from the time you left home to the time you successfully made your way to your desk seated in front of me. Were you not presented to an array of information made evident to your minds through your eyes, ears, hands, nose, and mouth? Yet how many of you were able to correctly and with a specific attention to detail recall the entirety of your passage? Know this. A wizard is not measured in what he knows, for that is but a function of his conscious awareness. Learn to expand your conscious awareness and you will expand the base of knowledge you are able to operate within. Tantamount to learning your surroundings and all information presented to you is the daunting task of learning yourself. For how can one learn anything if one does not learn himself first? It is therefore the mandate of every wizard to learn from within before learning from without. Because unless you have a well-founded knowledge of yourself rooted in the reality of your conscious intent, all knowledge you will learn will change as you change. And if knowledge changes, it is not knowledge at all. Learn to construct the unchanging foundation of who you are as wizards, and you will learn power. For all knowledge begins from within, and therefore, regardless of the world we exist in, we must first know the world that exists within ourselves. And that, my initiatives, is a source of power for the wizard, and must become the wizard's first concern. What was that? Entellus thought as he concluded his opening instruction to this year's class of initiates. When he would normally have seamlessly transitioned from a lecture to an exercise aimed at leading them in a meditative experience designed to better their inward journey, he was forced to divert his attention away from the students and toward the rear doorway to the classroom, an exit that was exclusively reserved for students. But it was no student who approached him now. His initial reaction was to imperceptibly scan all of those seated in front of him to see if there was a deception spell cast to mask the true identity of one of the new initiates. But moments into his observation, he realized that they had stopped moving altogether. In fact, all motion within the classroom had stopped. He could no longer see their apprehensive and elevated breathing rates continue through the rising and falling of their chests. All the dust particles were held suspended in the air, now growing thick with an unfamiliar power. Even the faint flickering of the candles used to illuminate their surroundings had been stilled. And we're going to stop right there. Next time we'll find out what exactly Entellus, the Grand Wizard, is sensing. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and even share if you want. I would appreciate it. You have a wonderful day, everyone. And until next time, always remember to release your dragon within.